Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Couples Academy show. My name is Hassani. It is good to see you all here in the building. It's been a little bit. We've been on the road, we've been traveling, and we've had our excellent practitioners stepping up and doing what they need to do to really impact you all on a daily basis. And I just want to take a moment to appreciate them. But I am back at the ranch. And so we're going to continue with a lot more great content for you. Today, we're talking about 10 ways to tell if his affair is over. But I don't want to be biased because we know that there are many women who are engaged in infidelity as well. So this also applies to the wives, 10 ways to tell if her affair is over. And this is critically important because it is hard to move forward while there is still a window cracked, a door open, while there is still communication and access and relationship and connection that has not been severed. And so it creates an uneasiness, it creates doubt, fear, it creates all types of things. And so you want to have a clean slate. Like no one wants to move forward thinking or believing that there's still an attachment. And so a part of the process that we take couples through is ensuring that the affair is over. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today, how to know, how to tell, what is the proof, what is the evidence of that. But before we get started, just a couple quick announcements, folks. Last Chance Weekend, we just had it. It was amazing. I do plan on sharing some testimonials with you because the results were so phenomenal. And so we have another one coming up in May we're excited about. The dates happen to be May 19th through the 21st. You have just enough time to register. What an amazing time we had this past weekend, 2 weekends ago. And we anticipate an amazing experience for the couples who do attend in May. Listen, we're entering into spring, right? How about you start your relationship off new and fresh and revived and restored and with a healthy foundation for a long-lasting, mutually beneficial relationship. So if that is you, if you want something more, if you're vacillating back and forth, if you're on the fence, if you don't know what to do, why not take the next step and invest in your future by attending a Last Chance Weekend. All right, guys, let's get into the conversation today. Before we get started, we want to make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Let the people know that we are here because this is a conversation that many people need to know about. All right, the affair is over. One of the things that we have to do is build up the confidence in our spouse that it is truly over and that we're never going back, okay? One of the things, as you know, that has been compromised is our spouse's ability to trust us, okay? Trust is at an all-time low because we've engaged in lies and deception for quite some time. Now all of the truth comes out, however it came out, and now we're trying to rebuild trust. Well, one of the ways to do that is to ensure to your spouse that the relationship is actually over. Okay, so how do we begin to do that? Number one, many people make the mistake of ending the affair separate from their spouse. They do it in secret. They do it on a private phone call. They have one more last meeting, just the two of them. They say their last goodbyes. They deliver their messaging. Then they come back to their spouse to tell them that it's all been done, that it's officially over. And their spouse is now forced to believe whatever it is that their partner has said. Not having evidence, not having proof, not sure what that message was, don't know if they left the window open, door cracked, don't know what, but just have to believe. And so for many people, there's no closure in that. For many people, that is just not enough. And so one of the things that you can do to ensure that it's actually over, even if you have ended it the appropriate way, the point is you have not ended it in their presence. So oftentimes revisiting ending the affair again in the presence of your partner is one of the things that you can do in the trust building process. So whether that's having a phone call and your spouse is present, whether it's delivering some type of message in front of your spouse that you send through email, that you send through text, that you send through a letter, you're doing it in the accompanying of your spouse. In fact, the message is determined and agreed upon before the message is even delivered. Okay, I know you're going to call her. I know you're going to call him and end it. But what do you plan on saying? I want to make sure that the messaging is crystal clear. Because oftentimes when we deliver the message, We're trying to delicately handle the situation. We're trying not to offend. We're trying not to trigger. We have so much care and concern about how the message lands, sometimes to a fault. Sometimes it is done in such a way that it's not crystal clear and it does not honor the spouse. It does not put a hard stop to the affair. And so we wind up having to do it again because the messaging was all wrong. And so that is why it's critically important that you two are on the same page. Now, what we don't agree with is the betrayed spouse creating the messaging that now the unfaithful spouse articulates like a parakeet. Why? Because it becomes crystal clear to all parties involved that the message didn't come from that particular person. Oftentimes in this process, the affair partner says, your spouse put you up to this, didn't it? This is your spouse communicating for you, isn't it? And so it just becomes an obvious and clear indication that the messaging was forced. It should come from the voice. It should come with the language of the unfaithful partner, but with the cosign in the approval of the betrayed partner. Does that make sense? That is how you approach it. And once that message is delivered, it is delivered. There's no need for back and forth. It should be a one-way, one-way transactional conversation. And once it's delivered, it should come to an end. So number one is agreeing to deliver the message in front of your spouse. I hope that's making sense. Okay. Then you want to give your spouse, number two, you want to give your spouse access to all forms of communication. All right. Your spouse should have access to your phone. Your spouse should have access to your email. Your spouse should have access to your social media accounts, because many people have become very creative. Oh, we didn't communicate on the phone. That's not how we communicated. It was through text, or it was through email, or it was through a private app, or it was only through Instagram or Facebook or whatever the medium may have been. Okay, if that was how you communicated, then your spouse should have access to that for the purpose of what? Monitoring. Yes. See, so many people get offended. So many people get to the point where they say, if you've got to look at my phone, if you got to look at my social media accounts, we don't have any trust and this relationship isn't worth having. Well, guess what? You don't have trust. Your trust is at an all-time low. It is at zero. It is in the deficit. It is in the basement, and it takes time to restore it. And I can't blindly trust you. I've got to put certain things in place. I've got to have a system of accountability. We've got to have transparency. I've got to lay my eyes on things for a period of time to know that you are living what you are articulating. You say it's over. I want to see evidence of it. I want to see a demonstration of it. And if you have nothing to hide, then you will hide nothing. And so therefore, I need to get access, open sesame, to all of your devices, to all of your platforms, because that is the way that we begin to rebuild trust. If there is any apprehension or a struggle for a former unfaithful partner to deliver this type of access to their spouse, then we have room for concern. There's something that we need to address, because something is not right, okay? So number two, you got to give access to all things, okay? Now, number three, you've got to engage in what we call the no contact contract. That is when you've made a written and verbal agreement to your spouse that you will never contact that person again, right? So you cut off all forms of access. You're unfollowing them. You're unfriending them. You're blocking them from your email. You're blocking them from your phone. You're choosing to not engage or go into environments where you know that other person would attend. So if there's a club, a bar, a shopping center, a work environment, you're doing your best to stay away from those areas, because those areas become a trigger. I'm dealing with that with a couple now. There was an affair that happened in a particular area, and every single week he goes back to that particular area. It becomes a trigger for the spouse. So now the assumption is, if you're going into that area, then what you're doing is you're going to see that particular person. And so therefore, we need to create a game plan, you and your spouse, of what you're going to no longer do and how to cut off all possibility for accidental stumbling across, instances where, oh my God, I didn't even realize it. She was there, he was there. And you know what? We happen to get into a conversation. Was it really happenstance? Was it really circumstance? Or was it intentional? See, these are the things that need to be done to begin to restore trust back into the relationship. Listen, guys, we're just getting started with this conversation. So much more to dive into. But what we're going to do is take a quick break. You're watching the Couples Academy show. We'll be right back after this quick message. Stay right there.
Hey family, Hassani and Danielle here, and I want to tell you about the Phoenix Awards Gala happening on October 7th, 2023. Couples Academy is hosting its first annual Phoenix Awards Gala, a celebration of perseverance, patience, and persistence, focused on couples who have endured and overcome significant hardships in their marriages.
Nominees of this prestigious award will have come to the brink of destruction in their marriage without giving up, and are living a testimony to what is possible when two stand as one.
This is no ordinary gala. We are honoring 5 of the most resilient couples across the U.S. and abroad. And here's the most exciting part. You get to pick our nominees. And there's more. Wear your most exquisite gowns and black tie ensembles and prepare for a 50-foot red carpet, cocktail reception, dinner, live music, and dancing. We're going to raise the roof and the standard for marriages on October 7th, and we want you to be there.
For tickets, go to couplesacademy.org/events. Hey guys, we're back. You're watching the Couples Academy show. Good to have all of you with us here. Man, there's some good comments in the chat that I got to recognize. Popette says, I'm tired of hearing the invading my privacy speech. There's a difference between privacy and secrecy, buddy. And that's absolutely true. There is a major difference between privacy and secrecy. And there's no room for secrecy in a relationship, right? There's no room for that because two become one. That means that we are one, right? And so that means that we should have intimacy, open and honest communication, vulnerability, transparency. If you've got to keep secrets from your spouse, that's an indication that something is wrong. And, secrecy and privacy, we've done so many videos on this, on the difference between the two. Oftentimes they may look the same, but the difference between them is motive and intent. It is a heart issue, right? If you're doing something that here's the reality. If you're doing something and your motive is to keep it from your spouse, that's secrecy. If you happen to be doing something out of the presence of, for another purpose and reason, that may be a sense of privacy. And privacy within a relationship is good, but secrecy is where you begin to live a compromised life. And so, listen, when there's been any type of betrayal, when there's been a breach of trust, there's very little room for privacy, let alone secrecy. For a period of time, you've got to be an open book. I want to know everything because I want to know who I'm dealing with because I thought I knew who you were, but obviously that I don't. There's been a lie, there's been a deceit that has existed for quite some time. And I was under the impression that you were this person, but I'm discovering that you were really someone else. And so in order for me to gain the trust back, then we got to open up everything. We got to see everything. And for you to be offended by that, and for you to have a problem with that, is an indication that true change and transformation hasn't taken place, at least in your mind. See, your mindset has to change. In order for behavior to change, first your mindset has to change. And so you need a new way of thinking and a new approach to a relationship if this thing is going to make sense. Tamika says, don't forget to give up the untraceable phones. People are clever with cheating now. That's so true. I tell you, we live in a world where cheating is celebrated, cheating is supported, and new technology, new apps, new devices, new websites are being established every day. It would be interesting to do some research to figure out how lucrative the cheating industry actually is, because people have made millions and millions of dollars creating tools and providing techniques and coaching and advice and all types of things to encourage people to do these heinous things that really have a negative impact on a marriage. Here's another comment. What am I to make of, number one, no official ending to the affair. Number two, no access to anything. Number three, he is still just as secretive as before the affair was brought to light. Have I the right to be concerned? I'm assuming that that's a rhetorical question. Of course you have a right to be concerned. So he's operating the same way after the discovery of the affair as he was prior to the discovery of the affair. So he's not transparent. He hasn't opened up any lines of communication. He's still just a secret. He's still engaged in the same behaviors and practices. What makes you think the affair is over? Or do you not think the affair is over? What proof or evidence has he given you that it is over? See, if he hasn't made you feel comfortable and you feel safe, then it's an indication that he's still engaged in such behaviors and practices. So then the question is, what do you do about this situation? If you do not know what to do, this is why, guys, we provide individual counseling. Let me just tell you something. I don't know if you know this, but one of the services that we provide is called the Solo Spouse Intensive. We talk about couples coming to us for a private marriage intensive or a group intensive, otherwise known as the Last Chance Weekend. But we also provide solo spouse intensives all the time, where that betrayed spouse will come to find clarity, to get healing, to come up with strategy of how to begin to approach life. And oftentimes we have the former unfaithful partner who's ended the affair, but maybe their spouse is not ready. Maybe they're not open yet. And so they will do a solo spouse intensive to figure out why they did what they did in the first place, how to overcome their temptations and their issues, to really become unbroken and healed, and then to work on strategy to bring their spouse back into a process that can lead to their restoration. So I would encourage you, if you're in this struggle and your spouse isn't changing, they're unrepentant, they're an unwilling participant, get the help that you need. So many times people wait for their spouse to get on board before they do something. And sometimes that's simply too late. Another point she makes is, or am I looking at things in an insecure manner due to the effects of being cheated on? The fact of the matter is you are insecure, right? You are insecure, meaning you don't have any security in this relationship. Any and all individuals who are cheated on in a relationship, there's a personal impact on their self-esteem, their self-worth, and it really helps them to feel even more insecure about the future of their relationship. So the feelings that you have are legit and justified. It's very normal. And yes, your insecurity in the relationship is causing you to feel the way that you feel, perceive the way that you perceive, but then facts are facts. At the end of the day, insecure or not, that does not take away from his failure to show up in the relationship the way that he needs to show up. And so therefore, work needs to be done on both parts. We say this all the time. He's broken. You're broken. His brokenness led him to cheat, which created brokenness within you. Your brokenness now is causing you to feel and look and think and interpret the things the way that you are. So both of you need your individual as well as your collective healing. Daryl goes on to say, my wife and I now have the Life 360 app, so she can check on my whereabouts if she wants to. Life 360, we promote it. I wish we had stock in that company for as much as we promote it. But Life 360 is an amazing app where you can download it on your phone. It's for families, right? That way, if every member of the family is connected to Life 360, I can actually see where my wife is, where my 4 daughters are, whoever else is connected to it. I could see where they're traveling to. I can see history. I can see everything. It's one of the tools that we talk about in terms of creating a system of accountability in the relationship to begin to restore trust. Now, here's the deal. Some people would say it's a trust building exercise. Trust building, it's not really trust building, okay? But what it does is it confirms or corrects one's suspicion about what their spouse may be doing or where their spouse is at. Trust can only be rebuilt when you don't have access to these tools, and now you're relying on, you know what, I'm not gonna, because as long as I have evidence of something, I don't need to trust. Trust is when you have no evidence, right? And so you need to have these tools, you need to have these apps for a period of time so that one could see your consistency in doing the right thing. Once you've been consistent long enough, now we can remove these devices, and now I can work on my ability to trust you, okay? So it's a process that takes time, but a necessary step in the process to restore it all. All right. Wow, I didn't even know about solo spouse intensives. Something to look into. Thank you. D, I agree. We have Life 360 as well. See, this is something that many people are using, and it is truly impactful. Okay, so let's continue in this conversation. We're talking about things that you can do to rebuild the trust or to prove that this affair is actually over. In addition to all the things that we just established, a few of the other things that you can do as an indication to prove to your spouse that it's actually over is how you engage in the conversations. When you're willing to engage in honest dialogue about the affair, it's an indication that you're not hiding anything. When you can look back on your own behavior or on the situation that you just came out of and you're not uneasy, you're not scared, you're not tense, you're not defensive, walls aren't up. Because as long as you're acting and operating in that particular way, defending, protecting, minimizing, rationalizing, trying to move past, trying to skip over, it's just like, dude, what's up? Why are you so nervous? Why are you struggling with a question or two? Why can't we have this conversation? What's really going on, right? So you're giving signs that something is not quite finished yet. But when you can freely have these conversations in a comfortable space, knowing that they're difficult conversations and they may be triggering, but I'm not hiding anything. I'm not trying to keep from disclosing anything. It's an indication that, okay, maybe this relationship is over, okay? When you dismiss your spouse's feelings, when you automatically attack them, when you automatically call them insecure, when you automatically project all of the things on them as if it's their fault, it's an indication that something is still up. So either you're still engaged in something or you're dealing with the residue of what you just got out of. See, you have to understand that when an affair comes to an end, if today is Monday and the affair ended today, tomorrow, am I completely separated, disconnected, released from that relationship? No, there's residue, okay? And so there's a period of time that you have to get this thing out of your system. We call it a she-tox or a he-tox, just like a drug addict has to go through a detox. So I stopped taking the drug, but the drug has got to go through my system and completely get out, right? And so in that process, As I'm going through my detox, my body's having all types of reactions. My mind, my emotions, there's a reaction. The same thing that happens in a relationship, in an illicit affair, when it comes to an end. There's a process that someone needs to go through to release this person from their system, to become whole and complete within themselves. When that does happen, it's an indication that you can now engage in conversations about that affair that do not trigger you. Because just as the betrayed spouse is triggered, the unfaithful spouse is triggered as well. Okay, these are the things that we need to consider when we're engaging in these conversations, that there's a healing process for both partners. But when you're projecting on your spouse something that they're not responsible for, it's an indication that you truly haven't released them yet. Now, another part of the conversation, an indication that is truly over, when you can, in your own rational mind, begin to talk about what needs to be done to restore the relationship, when you can identify issues in the marriage that need to be addressed and resolved, and you can do it freely and wholeheartedly, is an indication that your heart and your mind is clear from those past relationships, and you're giving all of who you are to your partner. This is the rebuilding process. When you're open to getting help, when you're open to getting support, when you're open to a process that the both of you go through together, it's an indication that you've disconnected from the affair partner and you're fully connected back to your spouse, connected to your God, which will allow you to establish something that is long lasting. See, we're talking about how to begin to reconnect, how to begin to restore trust. These are some of the things that are necessary if this affair is truly over. Listen, we're going to be talking about a whole lot more, but it seems like our show has come to an end. Hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully this gave you something to hold on to. Listen, now what we want you to do is to watch these videos with your spouse. Let this be a part of your workday. Dig into the details, engage in a conversation, and let this be used as a pathway to get you towards your healing. Listen, guys, we love you, and we'll see you tomorrow for another great episode. Stay tuned for tomorrow's show. It's going to be a good one. Take care, guys.